Thank you so much, Sri, and thanks, Venkata. That was a great session. We really enjoyed hearing from you. So, Rod Burns was supposed to be here today, and unfortunately, he was not able to make it. He had a small injury, so he's not here, and so I just am hopping in. So, I wanted to just say thanks to Rod, though, because he did a lot of prep for this session as well. And thank you to the panelists that are here. I wanted to just have everyone introduce themselves, maybe say your name, your title, your organization, and then you could also say what your company focused on with regard to pushing open source software and what you're looking at with One API. And I'll just go alphabetically from first name. So Andy, if you could go ahead and kick us off.
Sure. Hi, I'm Andy Wafaa. I work at Arm. I head up our open source office and represent Arm on a number of industry bodies, UXL Foundation just being one of those.
Perfect.
And from a usage perspective, we're seeing Arm being utilized in a whole, we're seeing UXL being utilized at Arm and a whole raft of different verticals, from automotive to high-end supercompute, AI clusters, and across the board. So for us, it's a fundamental piece of plumbing for modern compute now.
Cool. Okay, John, you want to go next?
Yeah, hi, I'm John Melonakos. I'm with Intel, and I'm an AI libraries architect at Intel. And Intel is sort of kicked off some of the original pieces of these projects and is opening up its strategy and becoming very collaborative on the API and software side. And yeah, we're excited about AI. A lot of focus on inference and at some point in the future and on training.
Great, thanks, John. Manuj, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'm Manuj. I'm Director for AI Software for Compute at Qualcomm. Before I introduce, first thanks the committee and the speakers attendees for the UXL team for this summit. Right, I did attend all from 7 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. So yeah, at Qualcomm, my focus is building scalable AI software. I look at benchmarks from device to mobile to XR, IoT. Qualcomm is on all from edge to the cloud side. Also, from a standard perspective, Qualcomm strategies around enabling performance portability, heterogeneous. We have all three CPU, GPU, NPU. And that becomes more important for open source. Also, the SYCL, this is where we use One API UXL, and that helps us to enable different IPs heterogeneously efficiently.
Perfect. Okay, and Penporn?
Hi, so I'm Penporn Koanankatool. I'm a software engineer from Google. I work on machine learning compiler. So Google has a strong commitment to open source, and on the AI side, we also have several open source software such as TensorFlow, which is a high-level AI framework, and we also have a similar one but newer called JAX, and I work on bot components, but underneath, so underneath TensorFlow and JAX, there is a compiler called OpenXLA. So my team works on making ML compiler make models run fast, and I lead the integration of our ML software infrastructure with One API software components such as One DNN. So I think we share a similar vision of wanting to make it easy to develop and deploy applications on wide scale of accelerators. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we announced Sri announced in the initial session that Rod Burns, who's been our steering committee chair, is stepping down after 2 years of holding the role. And now Andy and Manuj, you guys have graciously stepped up as co-chair. So I just wanted to give you a minute to talk about what you hope to see with UXL in the future and a little bit about your vision if you'd like to share something on that.
Sure, I'll take a first stab. for us, what I'm hopeful to see is the continuation of the collaboration that we've seen within UXL. Through Rod's stewardship at the beginning, he helped drive a lot of the opening up of everything for UXL, and I'd like to see that continue and for it to be much more accessible for all parties. I mean, it mostly is there. There are only a small number of elements that still need a bit of opening up, but hopefully we can get those across the line and grow the foundation from a membership and collaborative perspective to ensure that its growth and longevity is maintained.
Great, thank you. Manuj?
First, thanks for Rod also, right? What he has done past few years on chairing the one API and where we have reached today with UXL. Going forward, what we would like to see, and this what went over, is improving the strength on the standards, collaborating with academia, which we see is very important to scale this UXL adoption for standards, and of course, bringing other vendors to this committee, right? How they can increase the contribution. Also, looking forward is, yes, it's more on compute side. We want to include more IPs. Memory is one, right? Especially with the AI or new use cases which are coming. So increasing the scope for UXL for edge to cloud, also from graph to memory, compute, every IPs.
Awesome, that's great. Okay, so I have some kickoff questions for everyone, and then of course, if there are questions from the audience down the road, we can take some. But one of the ones I wanted to start with is, how do open standards enable software portability for developers? Like, why is this important? And is it possible to get portable performance, and any great examples? And I think, we've seen some earlier today, but taking advantage of open standards for portability and performance. And then how can community contribute to try to continue to drive this? So Penporn, do you want to take this one or kick it off, or not to put you on the spot, but.
Well, I have two things that quickly came to mind. So the first one is kind of like the open neural network exchange model, right? So that one, the Onyx format. So that one allows you to store the model in one single format and then use multiple frameworks to run. And another one is, I think it's called micro scaling formats, which is kind of on the work. It's actually from the other companies. They're all here in here. So it's by ARM, Intel, and Qualcomm, and many other companies. But in here, it's that all people who were involved are in here. So because in neural networks, there are a lot of we don't need that much precision, so there are a lot of lower precision efforts, and there are many custom formats. So having a standard format kind of help people focus on what format to actually write software for and accelerate. So that's the two quick ones. And anyone has anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, having an open standard actually minimizes the amount of fragmentation from the implementation piece, which is kind of critical. In open source, as many people know, there's 1,000,001 ways to do something. And by trying to focus people and channel people to doing it in a very specific, particular way, to ensure that the relevant API calls are all uniform, etc. How you do it necessarily doesn't matter so much, as long as it's acting in a predictable manner and providing the right functionality for people. And so by standardizing on those, it just makes things much easier and minimizes fragmentation.
Yeah, to add, here is one of the place we see is architecture keep evolving, hardware especially, right? Having the software side open standard helps future-proof investment. Compatibility, as we know, breaks every time a new hardware comes. Standard do help, and having open standard and bringing open community developer brain back to that one standard helps to evolve and keep it future-proof investment for different architecture nodes. And that's where we see open standard getting more and more.
Yeah, and I'd add that it has a huge impact on the ability of scientists and engineers everywhere to just do their science and engineering and not worry about proprietary lock-in and things that slow down the technical progress in this world. And the more we can collaborate and give the rest of the world tools that make the life easy for the developer, the more will benefit science and engineering generally.
Right, exactly. No, those are great points. Thank you. So the next one is really more around open governance. So, you know, we wanted to talk a little bit about why open governance is important. What are some of the best practices that you'll see? And how is open governance helping the UXL projects and One API elements really meet the needs of the community in a better way? And also, what's the Foundation Committee looking for from the community? So in terms of helping with open governance, so that the community of folks that have been here today or attending today can also help with the governance. So Andy, do you want to kick this one off?
Sure. So one of the big advantages of open governance is that it brings a level playing field for all parties. You know, some would say that Intel and ARM are competitors, Qualcomm and Intel are competitors,
Yeah.
etc. And actually, yes, maybe from a, you know, with a certain lens, yes, we may be competitors, but actually we're technologists at the end of the day. We want to see the technology succeed. We want to be able to succeed with that technology. And by having an open governance model, it means that we're all held accountable equally. There is no overbearing overlord or whatever it may be kind of scenario. And it means that we can actually just get on and do what needs to be done. It also allows smaller companies potentially to actually shine and take a much more active leadership role through recognition of their contributions, etc. It just makes it so much easier for people to participate. And from my perspective, I would love the community to hold us more accountable for their needs and requirements, etc., and actually participate. I think more participation is always welcome, and with it being an open governance model, it's much easier to participate. Great.
Manuj or Penporn or John, anything else you want to add?
I'll maybe add one line. It becomes everyone's responsibility now. It's for ECME to support these projects, right? That helps.
Yeah, I'd like to add that open governance helps a lot about trust, because before when you decide to join the project or not, if it's not open governance, how do you know if it's actually will go in the direction that is that you also want to go? So and also the plan and roadmap and making decision as well. So yeah, so I think open governance helps a lot with that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think this is a great transition period where you know, one company was leading and now two separate companies are going to co-lead, and so it's a really good. I think we're in a great spot to show that open governance in action.
Yeah, and I think, it's been what, 2 years since right this month, maybe almost to the day, since we announced the Unified Acceleration Foundation, UXL, and Penporn helped us with the naming and everything even back then. And I think, Rod stepped up as chair and we put it under the Linux Foundation. So we're just at this 2 month time, which is perfect. And to see both
Two
ARM and
year, not 2 months.
Qualcomm. Oh yeah. 2 year and 2 months? No, wasn't it at
No. You said 2 months, so I think you
oh
mean
yeah.
2 years.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. I said 2 months. Yeah, two full years because it was at I think the LF Europe that it was announced, open source summit. So maybe that was like, yeah. Anyway, it's exciting to see what you guys were going to bring to this and how we can continue to drive this forward as a team. So, uh, so maybe you guys can discuss a little bit. I know.
Shri also added a comment.
Oh yeah.
Shri,
Let's
yeah,
see.
do you want to speak up, Shri, or?
Yeah, sure. I wasn't expecting it, but what I was trying to say in the comment was the great thing about open platforms is that we talk about companies competing and so forth, but we're actually socializing the costs of that engineering across companies because we don't have to re-implement them. We're all working together on the common parts and then up leveling those. We can compete on the up level parts of that, right? So we don't. Otherwise, everybody's spending engineering cars and re-implementing the same stuff over and over again.
Mhm.
And this is the great parts of being part of an open source ecosystem or platform is not having to do that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Perfect. Thanks, Shri. We have a lot of AI expertise in the house today. So maybe you guys could discuss a little bit about how AI is impacting software engineering and the industry overall. I know it's a real-time thing that's happening and changing every day. And how does UXL Foundation plan to help this? Is AI adopting open standards? Where are the opportunities? And how do some of these open standards fit with AI? And how important is open source to AI? So I know there's a lot in there, but would anyone like to kick that off and comment? Don't all unmute at once. No, I'm just kidding.
I can start commenting on.
you can
did
go
someone
ahead.
speak?
You can go.
Okay. Yeah, so on open source side, I think it's very important because otherwise AI development could be not very accessible to everyone. It's kind of like, because training AI model is very expensive, so only big companies that can afford it will be able to do it. And if it's not open source, then the development would just be in the companies that can afford it. But when it's open source, many more people can help and actually find more ways to make training cheaper, and thus we all get faster model and bigger model, better with better qualities. And by open sourcing, it kind of brings everyone to the same level. And we push the frontier together. So I think that's the cool part of it, and that's how we were able to move this fast in AI. On the open standard, I just recalled a few more things. So there are protocols like agent to agent. So this is not about the low level framework now. This is kind of like getting AI to work. So because everyone is writing their own AI agent, so when we actually use it in the real world, you need to make AI know how to work together as well. So there's a agent to agent protocol which Google develops with some other partners. That allows agent to actually know how to interact and collaborate with each other. And there are also protocols like agent payment protocol, which is to allows agent to actually process payments for you safely, securely. And there are also protocols such as, I forgot the name. I think it's MCP, but I don't know what it stands for. This one is for standardized format for agents to be able to pull more data from normal services like Google Drive or any API that usually programmers can call and use. So this is standardized so that anyone can write AI agent that called this API and get info. And I yield. Sorry, I think I spoke too much.
Manuj, did you want to say something?
Well, we see at different levels stack, right? Open source in AI, one from the orchestration model perspective, the base model comes from if you contribute to open source, there's a lot of fine tuning has started. You want to tune to, let's take one specific industry, you can use the base model. That way you can, the data is important. It's not fully open source on data side. So the base model at the highest level gets important. Then what Penporn was going, up-level orchestration, right? Talking with devices, having that standard and the open source of that. MCP, LangChain, these are getting more and more open source adopted, right? And then behind the scene comes our infrastructure where writing once, and if you have that open source and standardize with, like example, UXL, PyTorch with UXL, Llama CPP with UXL 1 API, that helps to use heterogeneous API backend, right? So we do see at every layer of for AI, not just at the lowest compiler, but from model to the lower level compiler and the IP, that support of open source becomes very important.
Mm-hmm. John or Andy, you want to comment on that, or you good?
I'll yield to my far more knowledgeable AI colleagues.
Yeah, they got it. Okay, so this one, Andy, I will ask you this question pointedly. How is ARM using UXL Foundation projects for next gen AI? And you know, anything you want to say about that or that you can say? I know Fujitsu gave a keynote earlier, so they were obviously talking about, what they've been doing on ARM as well.
Right. So we see UXL as a core component for the plumbing for AI and ML workloads across the board. Potentially, maybe not so much in mobile devices, but I think all the other segments absolutely can benefit massively from UXL libraries. We obviously, in the server space, 1DNN is the largest of the family that's out there, and we're seeing it being utilized across the various frameworks, whether it be PyTorch, TensorFlow, JAX, Burn, you name the framework, 1DNN is definitely there. We're looking at how best to integrate some of the other libraries like OneMath and others into those frameworks to accelerate some of those workloads that are leveraged through those frameworks. And I think one of the more interesting places for UXL usage is actually in the automotive space, because the compute load in an automobile now is astronomical. They are literally data centers on wheels. And so the amount of compute that a vehicle has is massive. But not only that, the amount of inputs and interfaces and data being generated whilst on the move is huge. So we need a way of ensuring that the data feed that's coming in is kind of crunched as quickly as possible, and that output is then sent back out to the user and driving the car, whether it be speed, road sign recognition, adjustments, collision avoidance, all those sort of pieces. You've got cameras, you've got LiDAR, you've got the various sensors on the wheels to test for moisture. Is it a wet road or whatever, bumpy, kind of adjust the suspension on the fly, all those sort of things. And I think the amount of inputs and outputs and compute that's in a car now does pose some interesting challenges that we haven't quite worked out. We're at the conceptual stage,
Mhm.
But putting it into practice makes it that much more harder. So I think that's going to be a great growth area for UXL.
Great. Awesome. So this next one's for you, Manuj. At the OSS mini summit that UXL hosted in Denver, you talked about Qualcomm using One API and SYCL. And I just wanted to ask a little bit about what are your plans for the future and how important is open standards for Qualcomm and how do they power some of your products?
Yeah, so let me give some background for what we presented. So at Mini Summit, we did show how to use SYCL, UXL construction toolkit, using one single API on our Windows compute, Windows on Snapdragon devices. So using the same API, right? Few of the kernels were ported, math library were ported. So that was the base, what we were there earlier this or mid-summer timeframe. What we are planning going forward is how we can use those same API high level based on the heterogeneous SYCL, using LLVM, MLIR, these compilers low level, how we can connect that to use our backend CPU, GPU, NPU. And that's the goal of overall UXL and One API standard is at the lowest behind the scene backend vendors specific stuff. It can optimize, developers can focus on high level API and that they can leverage multiple different hardware, not tied with one single one. So going forward, we are planning to leverage more than one. That was CPU, moving to GPU, and then our accelerators, how we can add more One API back into it.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. So John, this one's for you. Intel's been supporting and developing the One API spec and its implementation for over 5 years. So how do you see the future for One API, John?
Yeah, I think it goes back to AI, I think that's what we're all interested in supporting. I think AI is inherently collaborative. I think at the topmost level, it's derived from the input of data from citizens all over the world, and that collaborative solutions will be able to organize their approach, and ultimately, in the limit, we're essentially organizing the world's data to produce software that drives services, and that's an inherently collaborative endeavor. And so I think One API stands at sort of the basis of that in a world where there's a lot of power grab for proprietary solutions. We're sitting at sort of this basis of building the fundamental layer for the collaboration that could succeed more long term. So that's why I'm super excited about the UXL Foundation, even though it's early and we're just getting started and everything, but I just see this as the way forward for AI generally.
Awesome. Okay, the next one is UXL steering members. You guys are involved kind of from HPC to embedded, like across the gamut. And it's not just AI and HPC, but it's like edge embedded, and you talked about driving and cars, and so what challenges exist in the embedded ecosystem? And is AI and HPC different from AI in embedded environments? And can the latest models transition to embedded and edge environments? So I'll throw that out there for whomever wants to maybe make a comment.
I think the big difference between Edge and HPC is the level of compute power available. And that then means for edge cases, we need to be smarter. I don't think the data is vastly different. If anything, edge devices will probably generate more data than HPC platforms will. I actually see edge and HPC working in a more symbiotic relationship. You'll have edge devices doing first scrub of the data sets, etc. They can do some initial compute, do some initial feedback depending on what the request is. But they'll need to kind of send those data sets back to an HPC cluster to do the vast amount of crunching that needs to be done on that data set that then feeds it back, and then it can carry on and it will store a local copy of what was computed and such like. So I think for real world edge use cases, there's going to be an HPC element required. It's not necessarily going to be a and or. It's very much an and. It has to be that partnership between the two platforms.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else want to comment on that? Okay. So the next one, and before we open this up to questions from the audience, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the future of the UXL Foundation in so far as like, what are the next technologies that are coming in the future? And I know you guys can't necessarily see the future, but you know, there's always new processors, new memory architectures. Are UXL Foundation projects relevant for like quantum computing? I don't mean to put too much in there, but energy efficiency in the context of AI in general, we're talking about all these data centers and data being sent from the edge back up. And, you know, this is going to create a whole thing about energy too. So just a couple questions on that. And then how important is C++ versus, for example, Python for developers? So anything in there you want to address? I just was thinking about plans as we go forward in future technologies and all of that.
Yeah, I can start, not on quantum, okay.
Yeah.
But we do see a line get blurred between the like next stages, orchestration getting more and more. That is the API we should work on the future. I think Andrew went over, Penporn went over on the cloud client, edge optimization, energy efficiency on edges, a lot needed, quantization, a lot needed, then more on the cloud side. Yes, MX formats, OCP formats getting adopted. But yeah, what we see is that orchestration, whatever it comes in future, whichever API, where we want to also invest in UXL side, it has to be compliant with both IPs and have some intelligence where it can automatically run some first layer on the edge and rest on the HPC side. So extending that UXL to that or adding orchestration will be something we should look into.
And do you want to comment anything more, or John, Penporn?
I think from a future-looking perspective, there's going to be. I'd love to see UXL used in more places. I think, well, you know, what those areas are, I really couldn't say. Can we cut UXL down sufficiently or optimize it sufficiently for mobile devices? I don't know. Certainly from laptop kind of personal compute perspective, there are use cases for a number of UXL libraries, and there are many applications currently that leverage UXL libraries for acceleration of video components and such like. Can we get it down to mobile devices? Can it be done on more IoT type platforms rather than edge? You know, how small can we shrink UXL? I think that's a question. And one of the areas I'd love to see us do better is in collaboration with other projects, whether it be something like Kronos or whatever. How can we work better within the wider ecosystem to make it easier for developers? How can we be the de facto API that people write for, kind of scenario? You write to UXL and you don't have to worry about the acceleration compute piece. It just happens for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a long-term goal that I'd like to see happen.
Great. Penporn, did you want to say anything?
Oh yeah, so this is not future, but kind of like now into the future. So I thought about RISC-V. And actually it can tie it up to some of the topics that we talked about before, like when we were mentioning how different is edge from the server workload. One thing that is more challenging on edge is the hardware is so much more diverse. So on server, you think you have so many accelerators already, but then on mobile phone, there are so many different kind of hardware and architectures. And then that brought me to RISC-V, which also tied up to open standard as well, because RISC-V is now being adopted in both the edge world and also in server world for both host, processor, and for accelerators. So I think that's also good and make it easier to program. So I look forward to seeing more RISC-V support from us. And actually in our AI SIG, this past month, I don't remember how long ago was that. Was it a few weeks ago? Yeah. So
It was beginning of
a talk
September,
about-
like I think the 3rd, yeah, or something, yeah.
Yeah. So there was a talk about adding RISC-V support to 1DNN. So yeah, that was kind of like based on CodeGen Kajak, but for RISC-V. So I look forward to that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. John, did you want to say anything?
No, those all sound good. I think that covers the bases. Yeah, just the more we can make it easy to do all sorts of functions and domains. We've talked about different platforms supporting and different different architectures as well as different scales. And then the only other thing is to sort of spread out functionally and enable people to do math and science of all types. And that just comes as we iteratively build and grow from the nexus of like core math functions and core AI functions out to more domain specific functions.
Great. So I guess one thing we could talk about is how the community at large can get involved in helping the foundation. And why should organizations join us in the UXL Foundation to kind of help drive this vision forward? And then I also wanted just to mention we're happy. I hope you guys are happy to take questions from anyone in the audience. So anyone that would like to submit a question, feel free to. Manuj, do you want to take that or?
Oh, sorry, what was the question?
Oh, just how can we get the community involved in helping the foundation? And why should organizations join us on this journey?
Yeah, so the most important stuff is we would like the current members and the ones who wants to explore I did touch academia, right? Their test GitHub link, I think it's here somewhere. I do see UXL GitHub. Start with that. We would like your feedback. That's important because we want to shape the spec, which is getting the input, help in making sure it's practical and portable. The spec which we are writing and the contribution, right? The UXL will become successful if there's more contribution and at every different level. So that's where we see, we would like to see how you can improve more engagement with the UXL and one API side.
Awesome. So, Shri, do we have any questions? Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah, Penporn.
I'd like to add. So if you're not a developer, you can still contribute. So you may think that, oh, if we want you to comment on spec or on some code, then that means you have to go and take a look into the code and do those things. So you can also give us feedback by come give a talk as well on what you're doing and what's good and what's bad, or what we could improve, and that way we could learn from your use cases and take feedback from there as well. We have 5, 6 now, right? Or is it still 4, 6? We have special interest group in math, in AI, and hardware,
Language.
and language.
Yeah.
And the safety one, is it a SIG yet? No.
Not really. I mean, we had a safety SIG, but I think we didn't have as much critical mass there. So we could think about that again, but we have the other ones, yeah.
I see. Yeah. So if you're interested in any of that, please participate, and you don't even have to give a talk. So if you join, and then we can have some discussion there. So yeah. So that's another.
But if you want to give a talk, we're open to having people come in and give talks, which is great. Yeah. Okay. So I think, do we have any questions from the audience? Anyone want to put something in the chat or raise their hand, or Shri, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Well, we talked about how can community help, and I think one of the things that is sort of missing is building a library of code, right? We have a repo called Awesome One API that but is ostensibly creates that, but I think smaller pieces of code really helped us. Like for the in the last talk there was by Venkata, right? He was talking about agentic AI, and I had asked a question. Well, how would you implement that under one API, right? Like these little pieces is really good to have. And how would I do an agent? And I know that it's a challenge in the AI landscape because it like what the conversation we had in Gen AI in November or October is not completely different than what it is today. But it's still good to be there. And the other pieces is this is once you have them, then your AI bots show up and pick them up. So when you're using generative AI to actually code itself, right? Things like Claude or anything learns from those codes that you put out there, and I think it makes it easier to write things in one API if you have things like Claude like subsuming these things, right? These platforms is a good way to sort of lower the barrier of entry when you're writing this. But this is a great place for community to come in, is to be able to say, hey, I wrote this thing, I wrote that kind of thing, and find ways to promote those kinds of things. So that's I didn't I guess it didn't turn out to be a question exactly, but it's more of a comment. But I will say how do we tackle from an AI perspective this rapid changing landscape in AI? How do we keep one API up to date? I guess is a good question.
Yeah.
John, do you want to, or Andy, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say, as with many open source projects and communities, one of the areas that tend to lag behind is in the documentation perspective. So to Shree's point, having code snippets, examples, if people have got, love to hear how people are using UXL out there. The four of us here will have a view as to how you use UXL. That doesn't necessarily mean it's how everyone's using UXL. And so those that are using it would love to hear, share the blog posts that you've put up about UXL or whatever else. Or if you would like to blog about UXL, let us know. We'll see what we can do and to help get your message and point out across. And yeah, I think that's to Penporn's point, you don't have to be a top tier hacker to be able to actually participate in UXL.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great. Any
Yeah.
other questions from the audience? Don't go ahead, John.
Yeah, I would just add that we can sort of set vision at our level from the foundation, the leaders of the foundation try to set a vision for the collaboration and then reduce the barriers to participation. But ultimately, it lives or survives based on contributions and whether people volunteer, buy into the vision, and spend the time and the resources to contribute. And so the more we can just have paint that collaborative vision and then make it super easy for people to contribute by making documentation and other things really accessible, the better off we'll be.
Great. Okay, any other questions now for any of our panelists or from the audience? If you don't have any questions coming in, I guess I could just offer you guys each to do maybe closing remarks, or Andy and Manuj, if you want to talk a little bit about your roles in co-chairing and as you move forward, any assistance you might need from the community at large or anything like that.
Input is always welcome. I'd love to have conversations with users, developers that are leveraging UXL. If people wish to join the foundation, but they need some more information, please do reach out. We can look at setting up a call, having a conversation, and actually try and answer any burning questions that people have prior to participating. I think we are here to serve the community, and so without your input, we will go down the route that we think is best. It may not necessarily be best for everyone. We accept that, but if we don't know what people need, want, etc., we can't take that into account and adjust how we navigate accordingly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Join UXL group, try, get us feedback. Feedback is important, right? And that will help and shape the specs. That's the most important stuff. Feedback, once you try, if there are gaps and how you try, that understanding and getting us that feedback will improve the overall UXL side. And that will increase adoption.
Penporn, do you have any closing remarks you'd like to make?
Not really. Should I echo for the third time, please? Join you.
No, I think you're good. Just want to make sure you and John have a moment if you have anything additional you want to say.
No, those are good remarks. Well, we're here to support the new chairs and do what we can to move this forward.
Yeah, congratulations on your new co-chair roles, and we're here to support you all the way. And thank you so much, Rod, too, for being here, even though you're not here. You're here with us in spirit. But anyway, all right. Well, I'll hand it back over to you, Shri.